Okay, so I'd like to do acknowledgement of country. So I join you on Noongar Whadjuk country, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, the culture and the dreams of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I'd also like to acknowledge people with a lived experience and their families. So this evening, included in the webinar, we're going to talk about the details of BPD Awareness Week theme, which is See the Person. We'll explain a bit about the Australian BPD Foundation and membership. We'll introduce the WA branch committee members, and then over to our presenter, Evelyn, who will share their lived experience journey. At the end, the committee members will follow on with some comments, questions or reflections, and we'll finish about 6:30 with a song from YouTube, assuming it all goes well. Because we've had so many people register, it isn't a Q&A. Okay, so BPD Awareness Week 2022, See the Person. I love, what a fabulous kind of theme. So our 2022 BPD Awareness Campaign encourages everyone to see the person alongside their BPD diagnosis, symptoms and survival actions. So let's acknowledge and celebrate their strengths, resilience and courage! Exclamation mark, woohoo. So people living with borderline personality disorder often find that their diagnosis is the first and only thing other people see. The BPD Awareness Week campaign encourages everyone to see the person alongside their BPD diagnosis, symptoms and survival actions. We're all complete and unique individuals, each with our own strengths and challenges. The growing body of mental health knowledge recognises the diversity of life experiences, the role genetics play, experiences of gender identity, sexual orientation, neurodiversity, or trauma can all contribute to our well-being. It's a universal experience to be assigned various labels through our lifetime, and many people living with BPD diagnosis experience stigma. We all share the fundamental need to be treated with respect and dignity, free from stigma and discrimination. This year's message reminds us to look at the person alongside the label, ask what their experiences are and how they continue to make sense of the world. For carers, family and friends, supporters and clinicians, it's a reminder that underneath negative or harmful coping behaviours, a person can often be struggling. So let's celebrate the person they are alongside their diagnosis. Acknowledge their strengths, resilience and courage in order to see the person. This campaign is informative and educational, having been co-designed and co-produced by the strong voices of people with lived experience to promote recovery, positivity and hope. So I might just take this opportunity just to have the committee members to say hi and introduce themselves. So maybe Lorraine.
Sure, Sam. Yeah, thank you very much. So Lorraine Powell, I identify as a person who has received a diagnosis of BPD and have been with the WA Foundation since its inception over here. I shall pass across to Sandra.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. So my name is Sandra. I am a consumer committee member at the BPD Foundation, and I also lead a support group for people with lived experience of BPD through MIPWA. So I will hand over to Cassie.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassie. So I have a lived experience. I also work as a mental health clinician. I'm an occupational therapist in the public mental health sector. And I have also been part of the BPD Foundation committee since the beginning of it in WA.
Oh, that must be me next.
Yes.
So hi, I'm Sam. I'm the chairperson or interim chairperson for the foundation here in WA. I've also been with the foundation here at the WA branch since its beginning. I sit in the space of having family members who at some point have had either personality disorder or identified with BPD. So yeah, that's my connection. Might just introduce Caroline as well. Caroline's not part of the committee as such, but has kindly agreed to give us a little bit of support tonight if anyone's having trouble connecting. Now, I've just had someone let me know that apparently the chat function isn't working for the participants. So unfortunately, I guess what I could say is that you do have Sandra and Caroline's mobile. So if there's anything that's really burning, you can text them if there's something that you think is really important that's being missed. I mean, I do know that we've got very experienced panelists here, and I feel that potentially any questions or any reflections or comments that they'll probably be able to summarise those at the end, but feel free to text. I have to admit, this is the first time I've set up a webinar, so maybe some of the settings haven't been correct, so I take that feedback on. We're just, yeah, doing the best I can today. So I might keep going just a little bit more, and then I'm going to hand over to Evelyn. So, okay. So the Australian BPD Foundation. So a lot of this information that I'm reading out can be found on the Australian BPD Foundation website. So the Australian BPD Foundation, the mission of the foundation is to promote a positive culture to support the recovery journey of people with BPD and their family and carers. The foundation also supports clinicians, healthcare personnel and researchers working in this field, and acknowledges everyone who works together towards a better recognition of BPD. And the vision, mission and aims can be found on the website. Also, membership of the foundation is open to anyone with an interest in encouraging a positive culture around BPD and promoting the ready availability and accessibility of appropriate services for everyone impacted by BPD. The membership helps support our work by giving us a louder advocacy voice to government and funders. Membership is free for individuals, and membership also entitles you to attend and vote at the annual general meeting and to receive the annual e-bulletin and newsletter, the BPD Advocate. So if you've seen that, it's really informative. It's a fabulous newsletter. So the foundation is involving consumers and carers with lived experience of BPD is an integral part of everything that the foundation does. So as we get closer to the presentation, I guess I wanted to just remind people that as we hear a subject that's close to our hearts, sometimes we can have lots of different feelings, can be painful, there could be grief, frustration, joy, hope, or different sorts of feelings. So the intention for the evening is to connect you with a message, to see the person and to remind you that you are not alone. So almost 100 people registered for this webinar. And there are so many other events that are happening across Australia this week. So that's evidence in itself that there are so many people that wish to connect. So you are not alone. If you need to take some time out this evening, please do. If you decide that this presentation is a bit tricky and you wish to leave early, take care of yourself, and that's okay. Please take good care. And as we think about self-care, there's many things, I guess, that different people can identify as self-care. So it could be music, nature, going for a walk and celebrating your uniqueness. I guess these are the things that we're really reminding ourselves of each other every single day, and particularly during BPD Awareness Week. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce Evelyn. So over to you, Ev.
Hello. Hi, everyone. How many people are here, Sam?
We have 32 attendees.
Hi, 32 people. That's amazing. I think that's the most people I've ever talked to online before. Terrifically exciting. Hi, my name is Evelyn. I would like to acknowledge that I am currently sitting on Wajak Noongar Boodja as well. I imagine some of you might be, but some of you also might be in other places. That's the beauty of the internet. So yeah, I'd love to take a moment to acknowledge that the land we're sitting on is the traditional custodians of the land that we're sitting on. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land, and sovereignty was never ceded. Yeah, and so before we get started, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, and the panelists will call me out if I go on too much of a tangent. But yeah, I'll just let you know that when I'm chatting today, I'll be telling you a bit about my lived life experience, my life, and yeah, there might be some references to some suicidal thinking, and yeah, you know, some dark times in my life, but I will definitely try and put a positive, hopeful spin on it, because I think that's what we're here to talk about today. And I definitely think when I was a young person, when I was going through some really difficult times in my journey, I would have been amazing if I could have jumped on the internet and listened to somebody who'd done it all before me and realized that there was a possibility and a future, because I definitely couldn't see that at the time. So yeah, just reiterating what Sam said, if you want to jump out at any point, go for your life, self-care, think about what you're going to do today to look after yourself afterwards, after we've had, you know, we've got to hear a little bit of my life story. I've got my quilt at the moment on my lap. That's my nice little safety blanket. Oh my gosh, it's like a literal safety blanket. Yeah, and I'm probably going to do some colouring in afterwards to just decompress. I'll probably watch a TV show as well. Scrubs is my TV show of choice at the moment. It's like the 6th time I've watched it. But that's one of my self-care things, is to watch the same shows that I know, and like I know what's going to happen. And it sounds a bit lame, but it's like, I don't know, for me it feels really it's a really calming and grounding exercise to me, because I know exactly what's going to happen and there's no surprises, and it's just a chance to like unwind. Yeah, so maybe have a little bit of a think about what if there's something that you can do for yourself today that will give you some of that nice grounding feeling, which I think is really important. So yeah, my name is Evelyn. I am non-binary. I use they them pronouns. I'm an actor. I'm a writer. I'm a theatre maker, I guess. I'm a social work student. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a wife. I got married this year. It was very exciting. I am a kid, as in I have parents that I am the child of. And yeah, I'm also an uncle. I have a little goddaughter called Zoe, who just turned 1, which is very exciting. And I went to her first birthday party on the weekend. Yeah, and I also have a diagnosis of BPD. Yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 15 years old, which is 10 years ago. Crap, that's terrifying. Yeah, so I've lived with the BPD diagnosis for 10 years. I definitely think I'm going a lot better now than I was. I got a lot of help. I got, yeah, and I'm like managing my emotions and regulating myself and kind of things like that, but I still have good days and bad days, and I think I still kind of think of myself as somebody with a BPD diagnosis. I don't know whether I would meet the diagnostic criteria anymore. I see a psych every fortnight, And I see a psychiatrist every couple of months. Sometimes I cancel the appointments and it gets a bit longer than that, but meant to see him every couple of months. And I'm like, I would say I'm living with it. I'm managing it pretty well. I'm studying at the moment at university and working part-time. So like life can be pretty full on, I guess, but I don't think that's necessarily any different to anyone else's life. But yeah, I have a bit of a different like life story than some people, I suppose. I was very unwell. I made a show actually. Oh, I should say that. I made a show about my mental health. It's called Borderline, and it was on at the Blue Room Theatre last year. And that is basically a dramatized version of my life story as well. So I won't go into as much detail as it does in the show, but there is a recording of the show which you can watch online. And I think Sam's going to send the link out for that recording in the email afterwards. So if you like, if you want to get a little bit more backstory to my life and my journey to recovery, then that's a good place to go. And hopefully it's kind of entertaining as well. It was kind of meant to be entertaining, but yeah. So when I was 15, I was suffering from I'd been sort of diagnosed with depression and also anxiety, and I had been to about 4 or 5 psychologists at that point as a 15-year-old, and I was not getting better. Nothing was I was on some different medications. I had some other friends at the time who also struggled with some depression and some difficulties with their mental health. And I remember I was in year 10 then as a 15-year-old, and it was sort of at the beginning of year 10 that it kind of started for me. And I had I guess I didn't really talk specifically a lot about it, but I was aware that a couple of my other friends were going through some similar things. And then they started getting better and things were going a bit better for them. And things were just kind of going downhill and worse for me. And I couldn't really make sense of that, because I was like, I'm doing the right things. I'm going to the doctors, I'm talking to the people, I'm doing the things. Why is it not working for me? What's wrong with me that makes me why can't this just work for me? And so I was on my second psychiatrist at that time. And she put the diagnostic criteria of BPD in front of me, and she said, I think you might have this. And I read it and I was like, oh yeah, that I've got that one, that thing on the paper, that all of them, yep, that's me. And yeah, that was kind of my experience of being diagnosed with BPD. At that point, I'd never heard of it. I knew nothing at all about it. But in that particular moment, sitting in that psychiatrist's office, being handed that paper, I felt an immediate sense of relief, because I was like, oh, this is a thing, and there's a thing, and if it's a thing, then people must know what to do about it, and it's not just something that I'm going through all entirely on my own. And I guess that night I then went home and I looked on the internet, which is not always the best idea, because there's some interesting things on the internet. This is 10 years ago as well, so I would say some more stigmatizing things than you will see on the internet now, or on the internet then. And it said, I kind of got a sense of the stigma of BPD. But it was, it's incurable. People with BPD are manipulative. They're untreatable. They're just generally bad people was the vibe. And I felt pretty crappy about that, because I was like, oh, I just gone from being so excited of like, well, not excited, but, you know, like so relieved that, oh, there's this thing that makes sense to me. And then it became this thing of like, oh, this is this horrible label that has just been thrown on me, and I do not like. I don't think I'm manipulative. I think I'm struggling. Well, actually, probably at the time I did sometimes think I was being manipulative, but you know, so like that kind of made it harder, I guess. But anyway, I went and I kept going to the psychiatrist, and she got me into the DBT program. And back then I had to wait about 3 weeks. So it's interesting in some ways that I think nowadays there's more people know a bit more about BPD, which I think is really good. And there's like, you know, people are doing more services and things, and there's more options available. But I think the downside is that now that there's a really high demand for all those services as well. And I've spoken to people who've been diagnosed more recently, and they've been on those kind of wait lists for months and months. And yeah, I guess when I look back on that, I don't think I realized that was, I don't think I even considered that was I was lucky that I got in that quickly. It just was a thing, and I was like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. And yeah, I guess now as somebody who's working in the sector, like I'm you know, studying social work, but like a lot of my area of interest is mental health stuff. So I work quite a lot in the mental health sector, and those wait times are scary and sad as well. And I can see in a lot of ways how that makes it really difficult. But I guess my kind of thought and answer around that is that I think about all the other things other than like the specific programs or psychologists or things that I did, you know, specifically for like recovery and stuff. And I think about the other experiences, the friendships I had, the connection with my mum, who was a really big help for me getting through, growing up. She was always my number one support person, and you know, she was always there. She went through everything with me, picked up the slack, you know, was in the hospitals with me, and like, you know, went along. She used to sleep on a trundle bed sometimes in the hospital next to me because I didn't like being alone. Yeah, so anyway, I'll go back to my story, and then I'll go back to that. This is the problem. I'm going to go on like tangent. Anyway, I'll try and focus myself. So DBT. So I got into the DBT program, and I did a 12-week course, and then I did another 12-week course of exactly the same thing. I did literally the exact same thing again. And I feel like DBT at that time kind of really, it took a while to work. And a lot of the time I was sitting there thinking, this is stupid and this is not going to work. But it really did. It really helped me understand how to survive, is what I think I like. And I think the way it's set out, it literally starts with those kind of survival skills of like distress tolerance and emotion regulation. It's like, how am I get through each day? Because at the moment, at that particular time, I wasn't really getting through each day. Like that was hard. And it was really that focus on the here and now. I went and I sat in a room with 6 or 7 other people. And I was like, oh, you guys have this thing that I have. And we're doing this together. And I think there was a lot of a sense of relief of finding those people and finding that connection. But yeah, I think that was sort of my high school the end of my high school experience was spent going to high school during the day and then going to DBT groups, counseling, therapy, all the different appointments in the afternoon. That's kind of how I did it. Yeah, like right through when I was doing my exams and everything, and people were sitting there studying all day. I'd study a bit and then I'd get up and go to group. And I was actually discharged like the same week that I graduated from high school. So that was kind of my experience. And like throughout that time, I've seen in total 8 different psychologists. And the 8th one stuck. And I've been seeing her for probably about 6 or 7 years now. Oh my God. She knew me before I realized I was gay. That's so funny. That's so funny. Like when I used to talk about boys and stuff. And then I figured out that, and then I started talking about girls. But yeah, that she, yeah, I do schema therapy with her now. And I often think about, I guess I kind of think about the difference between DBT and schema therapy. It's like DBT taught me how to survive on a daily basis. And then schema therapies taught me how to, a little bit more about what's going on for me and the why, you know, that kind of why is this happening to me? Why am I like this? Like, and kind of unpacking some of those like deeply held beliefs and thoughts and feelings and you know, that kind of, like, I would say both types of therapy required quite a bit of work, quite a bit of brain power and time and energy. And you know, it was hard, but like I definitely don't think as a 15-year-old I could have gone straight into schema therapy, which in some ways I'm like, you know, that was the thing that I needed, but I wasn't ready for it because at that point I couldn't get through a day, so I didn't know how like, you know, figuring out the why and getting and unpacking all that, I just wasn't in a place where I could, because I didn't have the skills to kind of make it through each day, if that makes sense. And so that was kind of my journey. And yeah, I think like as a kind of, now as somebody working in the mental health space, I can see a lot, and I see in a lot of young people. I've like been working with some young people in my last placement, and you can really tell that kind of, that when somebody's ready to get started in doing that kind of work and stuff, like it's not easy. It's not like impossibly hard either. Like it's just like it takes, you know, it takes your brain space, and it takes your like you know, it takes a lot. And I guess when I'm thinking about like yeah, I used to, when I was in school, like sometimes I would go to a psychologist at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'd see the psych from 8 to 9, and then my mum would pick me up and drive me to school, and then I'd do a full day of school, and I don't think I took in a single thing that anybody said on those days, because I was, you know, your brain, you need that brain space and time to kind of think. Yeah, and then my life kind of kept happening. I went to WAPA and I did a theatre degree. I wrote a theatre show about my life. I met my now wife, and yeah, figured out about my gender identity and my sexuality, which is like obviously an ongoing process for everyone, but that was a big thing for me. That I just didn't know, and obviously was affecting me and my mental health as a young person, but I just hadn't really figured out why, or like, or put, you know, being able to connect those dots or anything. But yeah, I'm doing really pretty well now. I definitely love my life. I have had like really weird feelings of never ever believing that I would, you know, as a young person, I couldn't ever see myself getting to this point, like being like for example, it took me ages to get my driver's license because I couldn't really see any point in investing in learning how to drive because I didn't think I would be around to do that. But I'm here and I'm a pretty good driver. So they're like, you know, that's cool. Yeah, I guess like thinking a little bit about, you know, what made the difference and like how did I get I mean better, but better feels weird, but like how did I do this recovery thing? I think a lot of you know, I think I did a lot of therapy. I did a lot of therapy and I understand myself pretty well. I'm actually really good at talking about myself, which is evidence here where I'm given 30 minutes to talk about myself and I can do that. But I think it's also those connections and that import and making those having those people in your life that kind of you can share with and you can know what's going on. So I guess for a lot of the beginning of my journey, I did feel really alone. And I had my mum who was an amazing support, and I had my family, I had some friends, and you know, there were times where I would try and talk to them and I would find it challenging sometimes and I would find it helpful sometimes. My mum and dad both went to like the DBT program I was doing around like a parents' night thing, and they went to that. And I think one of the biggest things they learnt from that was about validation and about validating people's emotions. And my mum learnt how to do that. My dad's still learning how to do that, but my mum learned how to do that. No, that's a lie. Dad's pretty good at it now, but like it, yeah, that helps so much. I mean, even when it was clunky and rehearsed and like literally like they were reading off a piece of paper, they were like, that sounds like it must be very difficult for you, Evelyn. And I'd be like, yes, mum. But even just that was like incredible. It was the first time that there was space for my emotions and it was okay for me to have these big, huge emotions that up until that point had never made sense to me, how mine were so much bigger and scarier than everybody else's. Like that's how it felt, I guess. And then another big thing is I joined a BPD support group, which is run by a friend of mine. It unfortunately isn't running anymore because that didn't have any funding, and so it was more done off of her, you know, it was just with her time. But there are some other great like support groups and different things that are available now. If you can, I'm sure Sam will talk about this more, but I know that if you go to the BPD Foundation website, they have lots of information about the kind of groups and things that are available in all the states as well as WA. But I got so much out of going to that BPD support group. It was the first time since back when I was 15 sitting in the room in the hospital, then where there was about 6 or 7 of us. But at one point when I was at that group, I was probably about 22, 23 maybe. At one point when I was there was about 25 people aged between 18 and 65. And they were all in this space talking about their experience of BPD. And it was incredible. It was my friend who was married at that point, and that was the first time I'd ever known anybody with BPD that was married, because I kind of thought, oh, people with BPD can't have meaningful relationships and stuff because we're not good at that. But then I got proved wrong, and then I proved them wrong with my thing. But yeah, you like it, this sense of being able to share something and have and it to not be met with kind of a dead stare or a like, oh, that sounds like it must be difficult for you, but like oh my gosh, yes, and that happens to me, and also this happens, and you're like, oh my god, yeah. And you hear other people's stories and people who've like the different journeys that people have had in their recovery, and I think that really like opened my eyes to I guess this thing that I'd been missing all this time, which was this sense of that it's a thing that affects a lot of people, and there is hope and there is possibility, and there are all these people, and they're not just this BPD diagnosis that gets thrown on you in a hospital and sticks on your chart for the rest of your life. They're like humans with life experiences and dogs and jobs, and you know, and like life wasn't going swimmingly for all of them all the time, but they were figuring it out and we were helping each other, and that seemed amazing to me. It was like, yeah, truly the time that I think I started thinking about how I can give back to the people that are going through similar things to what I went through, like, and that was a really powerful moment for me. It's like part of why I made the show. It just kind of helped for things to fall into place, and I think it's just helped me on my journey of now wanting to be a social worker. And it's my dream one day is to run groups like that where people can have that space to connect and share. Yes, Sam, question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, what would you say to people who are kind of struggling and they want to, you know, connect to groups or, you know, DBT and stuff like that, but they're on a waiting list and they sort of feel like they're in limbo? Like, what kinds of things would you kind of say to them, those people that are kind of waiting, trying to find the right psychologist?
Yeah, I guess like they're definitely like you can get there, I guess, and that it will get there. I think it must be so tough sitting on a wait list for a group when you feel like you're really ready to start it right now. I like haven't had that experience in my life, but I definitely experienced seeing many psychologists who I felt like didn't get me at all, who I feel like didn't listen to me, or listened to me but really quickly put me in this box of this is what your problem is, who just gave me worksheet after worksheet without actually like checking in to see if that was working for me, if those kind of things. But like I eventually found a few different psychs. Actually, the psych before the one that I see now was also really great. And I found people that connected with me and that that made sense and made the whole process worth it, because I got there in the end. But I guess I don't really know, what would I say? You can get there, and I got there, and I hope that there's more people like me now working in the system trying to make it better, advocating for those more funding and all those more supports that we need to get the better funding and get better support and faster and all those things like that. You know, I think people are working in those spaces now, and I guess in the meantime, finding those kind of support groups or things that are open and are available, you know, even if it's like a monthly check-in with some people, and it, you know, it's not right what you need, like it's not going to fix everything, but just kind of to establish that connection with some other people and see a bit what's going on. Like that's what I would say.
I can definitely hear your determination and perseverance, and I think it's about encouraging other people to keep at it. Isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I
think it's not, none of the steps of it are easy. the waiting's not easy, the doing the therapy is not easy. And yeah, you don't really get necessarily, like, you know, you finish high school and you walk away with a certificate. You don't exactly get, I don't have a certificate now that says I did it, I beat BPD, but it's made me who I am. It's made me so much better. I think, well, definitely a better clinician when on my work. I think I can listen to people and I can hear people, and I know I have my own experience of what it's like. So when somebody complains about not clicking with a psych, or finding it difficult to make it to group, or finding it difficult to connect what's going on, like I'm there with them, and I can hold that space, and I can offer that personal connection. But I also think it's made me a better person. Like I think I'm a bit nicer than I would have been if I hadn't gone through all this, which is a bit sad. But like I you know, I care about people when they say they're having a bad day. I like follow up with them to actually see how they're going. It's like shaped entirely my purpose and passion in life, like what I want to do. I've made some really cool theater because of it. Like I think it makes me a better actor because I'm able to like be in touch with my emotions and things. There's a lot of positives, and that sounds really cheesy because it's also really shit, but it, like, I don't think I would be the person that I am today without it, obviously.
Yeah, wow. I was just wondering, because we've got probably about 10 minutes to go, so is it okay we just check in with the other panelists and just see if there's any sort of comments or reflections from
sure.
anybody? Maybe Caroline.
Hi, I just would like you to explain the DBT, the full name, because there's a lot of people that have never heard it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, so a little bit like if there's an example of how it worked for you all.
So it's called dialectical behavior therapy. It was invented by Marsha Linehan, who herself had BPD. It's really interesting. She actually made the whole therapy, worked on it for years, and it wasn't until like years after she actually made it that she came out as, I guess if you call it that, as somebody living with a BPD diagnosis. Like that's the level of kind of stigma around this disorder that it took her so many years to feel safe to do that. But yeah, so it's being dialectical means accepting that two things can be true at the same time. So I feel like it was the first one they told me, and it's the one that's always stuck in my mind, is I'm really angry at my mum for not letting me watch the TV, and I love her more than anything in the world. And those two things can actually be true at the same time. And that can be something that's really hard to like process and grapple with for people with BPD, but also like generally, you know, holding two seemingly opposite and different things that are both true at the same time. But that's kind of the premise of DBT. It's built around like 4 different modules of mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness skills, like talking, making good relationships. And that's kind of what it is, and it's often done in a group setting. The original thing that Marsha Linehan set out was a year-long program. When I did them, I did them at the hospital I was at, was a 12-week program, but like there's lots of different ways. And I mean, you can even just use kind of the principles of it in like general counseling, like one-on-one counseling. Like but that's kind of its framework. And I think the fact that it comes from somebody with lived experience, I think you can tell. Well, I could tell anyway when I did it.
Yeah, definitely. Sandra, did you have any comments, reflections for Ev?
So it's really nice to see you again, Ev. I've known Ev for about 4 years, so to be able to see the evolution is just incredibly empowering, and really it's just another strong example in my work in the support group of actually having those examples of people that are pioneers in the system and are pioneers in with BPD and are able to give hope. And I'm just really blessed to be able to be on that journey, be able to be in the presence of you, Ev, and just the hope. And when I'm, like, even for me, when I'm having a down day, I can just listen to your story, and really motivates me through my hard times.
Oh, well, that's so cute, Sandra. Thank you. Oh, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it, help with that process. So that's really lovely to hear.
Yeah, and it's just all of, just adding that to the community. And and even for me being really new to just starting my career and just being so welcome in the community, and just how much the mental health space is really all about one clear goal. We may be in different organizations, but all one clear goal. So I'm just really blessed to hear your story.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Cassie, did you have anything that you wanted to add, any sort of reflections or comments?
So I just want to say thanks for sharing your story. It's always great to hear, stories of hope. It obviously took a lot of hard work, but, it's great to hear people who have been able to do that therapy, work hard, and to then be studying to be a mental health clinician. I think it's always, as a mental health clinician who has a lived experience, it's always great to hear that there's others as well who, I think it's always great to have mental health clinicians who have that lived experience, because they know what it's like to have gone through that mental health journey and to have come out on the other side, to be able to use those experiences to work with the clients that they see.
Yeah, it's I love it so much. And I think that like the lived experience sector is kind of growing. But I think there's lots of people out there that work in the space who are there because of their own experiences or of experiences of their loved ones. And I don't think it's something that's necessarily as talked about as much, but I think it really shapes you as a clinician and drives you to keep going every day and turn up when it gets difficult. Sometimes it can get pretty tricky.
Yeah. Thanks. And Lorraine, any comments, reflections from you?
Evelyn, you're amazing. Awesome. Thank you. And just for anybody that's online that's watching, the BPD WA branch actually attended Evelyn's stage production last year, and we had a fabulous night. So I just, again, I'm going to start with thank you so much. I've probably got a couple of questions that I'm going to get you to tease out for me, if that's okay, Evelyn, because I'm listening to you speak, and there was some things that cropped up for me. I'm just thinking of my diagnostic process. Oh God, so long ago. But I think the one thing I'm going to question you on to start with is, when did that hope kick in? When was that moment that you went, I can get my driver's license, I can do something different?
Oh gosh, that's a tricky one. I
love tricky questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if there's ever one big real moment. I mean, I had a time where I was about 17, and I decided to run away from home, and I started walking down the street, and I turned around. I was about 3 blocks down, and I saw my mum out on the footpath waiting for me. That was a big moment. That I turned around and I went back home, because I was like, oh, there's somebody there that cares and that it matters to them what happens to me. That was a pretty huge one. For example, with getting my driver's license, I just started doing it. I started doing the lessons even before I believed that it was going to get anywhere, because I was like, my mom was like, oh, you should do it. And like, I had friends who were doing it, and I was like, oh, all right, I'll just do them. And I got it. I was good. And then I could drive myself around and I could do cool things. So yeah, I think I don't know that I can pinpoint a moment. I think it was a very powerful moment for me sitting in my first ever support group. And the night that my dog passed away, my family dog that I'd loved for a very long time, and I actually went to support group that night, even though I didn't really want to go because I wasn't feeling well. And I was like, I was obviously grieving the loss of my dog, and I was like, I'll just go. And we had a group member who had a dog that she would bring with her, and she just put it in my lap. And I just cried, and everyone just held this space for me, and it was so beautiful. And I just felt a sense of connection and like passion and belief. But I mean, I guess at that point as well, like that it signified a lot. This dog was my like support animal through my adolescence growing up with BPD, and her passing away had been like one of my biggest fears. And I was like, how am I going to ever cope with this? And then it happened, and I was devastated, and I went to group, and I felt supported and connection, and I knew that I could get through it and I could grieve. And that was a really powerful thing for me. Yeah.
What really stood out for me, Evelyn, as you were speaking, is that absolute value of finding your mob. It's finding the people that understand it without you needing to describe it or explain it. They just get it. And that came through very strongly in what you've talked about. So thank you very much for that. The value of understanding that you're not, the only person in the world with this diagnosis, and you have to do this by yourself. To be able to find others, what did you say, your people, to be able to find your people that understand it, that get it, that can hold that space, and my guess is they probably, that individual that put that dog in your lap didn't even need to talk to you. It was just an automatic response, which just really highlights the value of peer support and what it brings to the recovery space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so very much, Evelyn. It's been fabulous listening to you.
No worries. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I'm aware. Gee, that went really quick, that hour. Here we were talking
about myself for quite a long time. If
we were like, but we can fill the space. We were saying, because I'm also aware that like people probably have like some time commitments. So just a reminder to attendees that this is being recorded. And so you'll be able to access that. And some of the things that we've spoken about can be emailed to everybody as well, like some more explanations about different services and supports, explanations about what DBT is. I know the Australian BPD Foundation website, as I was reading from that before, is really, really informative. So I would encourage people to have a good look around that. I think as I start to wind things up a little bit, I would like to remind everybody that the annual BPD Awareness Picnic, so since we've started here in WA, was it 2017? Did we have our first picnic? Anyway, it's been a while. So we have a picnic every year, and the idea with the picnic was around when we first started to talk about what do we do, and we're like, well, we're not going to hide away in a room somewhere. We're actually going to be out in the open, where people can see us and where people can find us. So it's this Saturday at 8 o'clock at Burswood Park. So it's near the
not 8 o'clock.
What did I say? 8 o'clock?
You said 8. It's 11.
11. Yeah, that sounds better.
I don't know where that came from.
We'll be
I meant to say the 8.
At an EM. It's okay.
Please don't go at 8 o'clock. Well, you can if you want to, but I definitely won't be there. What I meant to say is that Saturday, the 8th of October at 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And we've been able to get some Mental Health Commission, WAM funding because it's in Mental Health Week. So we can shout you a coffee from the local coffee van or an ice cream. So that's kind of nice. So bring along like a picnic rug or, you know, like a chair or something like that. And yeah, come along and join us. Like the committee, most of the committee will be there. And it's just a nice way to come together and to have maybe some more personal conversations as well, if it's helpful, or not. You don't have to have personal conversations, but you can if it's helpful to be able to connect with us. So yeah. So we'd love to see you. You can RSVP to Sandra. So I'm going to send out the flyer, but you don't necessarily have to. We'd just love to see you. What I would like to do, just really quickly, I just want to bring your awareness to the BPD awareness website. So there's some great information on there if people haven't seen that. So this is also a place where you can see, I mean, BPD Awareness Week is kind of coming to an end, but you can also see a lot of really amazing information on here, some great resources. There's a YouTube there. So yeah, definitely please feel free to have a look at that. And I think, sorry if I'm moving that too fast for people, your head spinning. Yeah, you'll see along the top, there's some great information on there and some lived experience stories. We know that like connecting with hope and connecting with that message, you know, that about finding your tribe and feeling less alone, these are really important things. So if my advice to anybody is just keep persevering, and believe in the fact that people are out there that really care, like they really do care, and I encourage you to keep persevering. And to families as well, like I know there's families that are doing it tough, and I just encourage you to do the same thing around find your tribe too. Find the people that go, oh yeah, I get that. And get as much support for yourself as you can, because that can be tough sometimes, holding space for people yeah, that are doing it difficult. So yeah, just encourage everybody. And I think that's probably it. Am I going to try and share this YouTube now? Shall I try?
Let's do the video, I reckon. Unless, Caroline, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just had one of the participants said that Marsha says we are tulips trying to be a rose. We need to find a tulip garden and not try to change ourselves to be a rose. Thank you, Joan.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Very true.
All the way from Canberra.
Oh, from Canberra?
Yeah.
Wow. Hello from Canberra.
Yeah.
No, I can't see you. Lovely to know that you're there.
Mobile phones.
Yeah, Sam, do you want to play the video? This is just so I think Sam's going to send out the link to the show if you did want to watch it, the full thing. It's about an hour, but there's a song in the middle of it that I felt like is a nice kind of song. So these songs, I wrote the lyrics, and my friend B, who you'll hear in the video, fingers crossed if it works, is they were my best man at my wedding. They are singing in it, and it's beautiful. And it's a song that I wrote, and I wrote it for my mum to say thank you and for everything that she did and all the support that she gave to me. So yeah, do you want to give it a go, Sam, see if it works?
I am going to give it a go. I'm going for gold here, and let's see if it works.
I believe in you. Hey, beautiful. Oh, that's awesome. I can hear it. Can other people hear it?
Yeah.
Yay.
I tell you I wanna shave my head, sorry doesn't feel big enough for everything I put you through. 1,000 worried nights and breakdowns like flashing lights. Hospital room, sleeping on a fold-out bed, drowning out the voices in my head. And I know you'd do it all again if I asked you to. Or to the moon and back, you told me. I say to the moon and back, time's infinity. Wake up with hair around my shoulders. I tie it up and jump in your passenger seat. And we go by bumper stickers. They say Jesus died for you. But I don't believe that's true. I know I stayed alive for you, Mum, every time you carried me through. Well, thank you doesn't feel big enough for everything you do. 1,000 late night calls with me and then catch me when I fall. While I do my very best to make it to your next check-in text. And I know you'd do it all again if I asked you to. But to the moon and back, you told me. I say the moon and back, time's infinity. Haircuts in the backyard, old scissors in gentle rain. Your tactic is big snips. I never felt so lucky having all of this. While after peeling all through the walls, in the kitchen and out of the back door, to the moon and back, you told me. I say to the moon and back, time's infinity.
That's it. Thanks, Sam.
Wow. Oh, it took all my energy not to just cry really hard then. That was beautiful. That was really beautiful. Thank you so much.
No worries.
So just as we're finishing up, so I'm mindful of the fact that some of the chat we weren't able to get some of the chat, but you've got Caroline and Sandra's email and phone number. So if there's some kind of pressing questions or some things that you feel that we've skimmed over that you'd like me to include in the follow-up email, please email or send a text. And yeah, we'll do our best to address some of those things. But yeah, it's been a real delight to be able to spend this evening with you, Ev, and with our lovely helpers. I was going to say committee members, but I know Caroline's not. She's been a helper tonight. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I know she's got to go off and facilitate a support group shortly. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, your generosity.
No worries at
really
all. Thank you so
appreciate it.
much. It's been so lovely. Yeah, if you want to include any questions for me as well, I'm sure Sam will pass them on. Yeah, it's been really lovely to chat to everyone, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening, or I guess it's maybe not even evening or late night in Canberra. But wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely time. And yeah, remember some self-care, something nice that you can do for yourself for this evening. Yeah. Be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Look after yourselves. Go well, go safe. Yeah, and you're not alone. Yeah.
Not alone.
Okay. Not alone. Okay. All right. And to our lovely attendees out there, thank you so much. And yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye. See everybody.